A warm welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel, guys. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button. How you doing? Hope you're all good. Today I want to do a video on on these three products which can identify as quick detailers or can identify as kind of rinseless washes as well. They're concentrated products that all three of them have made my kind of shelf of all the kind of stuff that I want to keep and kind of use, and mainly because they offer a level of value that is just hard to overlook. So the three products: the Koch Chemie Rapid Rinseless Wash, the Labo Cosmetica Idrosave, the Bilt Hamber QD. What are the fundamental differences between these three products? Well, this one primarily identifies as a rinseless wash that you mix down at 1 to 256, and you could do a rinseless wash in your car with it. You know, put it in a bucket, mix it up at that ratio, use your microfiber wash mitt or sponge or whatever you want to do, wipe over all your dusty, dirty car panels and towel dry them off, and you've washed your car without busting out kind of hoses and equipment. I don't personally do that. I wouldn't do it on this car, especially. Although we did like lots of rinseless washing on this car, and it's a useful tool, but I don't tend to wash my car like that. We've covered kind of why. I'll do a proper traditional wash because it just thinks it gets it squeaky clean, it gets in all the crevices. You need the pressure washer to clean out arches and all that area properly. You can blast out, you can blast over the scuttle and around the engine and all that when you're doing it, and you just do a better job with a full kind of traditional wash. But rinseless is still useful, so the Koch product could be used in that way. Now you can also mix this down at 1 to 256 and spray it onto your car as a quick detailer. Now 1 to 256, when you mix that down with water, is 4 ml of products to 1,000 ml of water, roughly. I don't think that's quite juicy enough, and I would, this isn't a review now, this is how I want to use it. I would up the concentration, perhaps maybe even to 1 to 100 or even up to 1 to 50 if you're using it as a quick detailer. So you're not just, it's not just like, even at 1 to 100, it's like 1% product and 99% water. So I just want to juice it a bit more as a quick detailer. And this would then function as a very simple quick detailer, which has some material that's supposed to be like smooth, but it's not like a weatherproof, durable material. It's going to wash off, when you wash your car. So it's non-permanent protection. And that is really for the guys that you probably wash your car, say if you're using it as a quick detailer, and then you want to just go over and tidy up your panel. So sometimes where soap sits in the wing mirrors or under the seals and it can run out, you might get a little sort of like soap run or something, when you bring the car in after drying it. You might have fingerprints on the car, or you might get a little bit of light dust on there or something you just want to wipe off. That lube and shine roll for a quick detailer. And then what I'm discovering with this stuff is it's at this ratio, and this is around 1 to 100, it's a really forgiving product. So I'll overdose it onto the panel. So we're really going to wet out the panel, use way more than you'd ever use. And you're really just trusting the kind of chemical to do what it's doing, mixing in with the dust, providing you a bit of lube or whatever. And then you just wipe it over. And that's what I like about this, is there's no because it's so low in concentration, there is just no film to buff out. So it's not filmy, you just got to dry it almost. This is a very simple thing. You could say, well, you could just spray water over there and that would behave a bit like that. Yes, but you're just trusting the chemical to provide a bit of lubrication, a bit of shine or whatever it does. But the key thing is, I think, with the rapid rinseless wash, and since I've been using it, after it won the rapid rinseless wash shootout, I've been really impressed with it. I think it's just a very good rapid rinseless wash. And the fact that it's £12.95 for a litre is really desirable for me. Whereas, lots of them are like 20 quid for 500 ml. you know, they've just set a price point that it's going to be hard to compete with from a very kind of good technical German brand. And I think it's a very good product. What doesn't it do? Well, it's not as slick as some of those ceramic detailers. It's not high in active ingredients. We know when you're using it at 1 to 256. So like some of those quick detailers which won our competition, or, you know, that we really like the FameLab one, this kind of leaves behind stuff which is spray sealant level. You know, the FameLab leaves behind stuff which is bonding to the paintwork and setting, and it's resinous and it slickens up and leaves a silky finish, and the water will bead off of it. It will top up protection. You know, it's that different kind of thing. It's that different type of product. And when you use the FameLab and you use it week on, week out, you notice the kind of slickness build up on it as you kind of use more of that material. So there are benefits to like these products, but you'll pay $18.95, I believe, for 500 ml of this. You'll pay, what's the cost of 4 ml of that? Well, 10 ml would be 16p, wouldn't it? If it was 16.95, no, 12.95. 10 ml would be like 12p or so, I don't know. So to mix up a bottle of this is you know, pennies. That's all you need to know. It's probably less than 10p. So the value proposition is just always unbeatable, and that's why I think it's a product that I want on my shelf. But it doesn't do everything, so it might not be for everyone. Then at the opposite end of the scale, another product which after the Rinseless wash, this went in a box and it was ready to be given away because I can't keep them all, you know, so they go off to patrons in a monthly contest. And then I was just reading the comments and someone was telling me they were having, you know, really good experience with it as a quick detailer. And then I sort of remembered, yes, it's got that, it's hydrophobic, it's got that stuff in it. And you use it a 1 to 50 as a quick detailer, which I've got here. And the difference between these two Rinseless washes is that this one is a bit more like a protective detailer, even at 50 to 1. It does add a lot of hydrophobicity. So it makes it a better drying aid. So if you've got the car and it comes in and it's covered in water, you could take this, and I've got it in here, you know, you could take this and go all over your panel, just like I have done with the Rinseless. You just mist it over the water. Mist it over the damp surface. All over the car, ideally. That's what you kind of want to do. I'm just going to flip sides to a dry side on this cloth. And then you just towel dry your car, and you've just simply got some of this material here, again, that just wipes off the panel with no smearing. But the difference is this little patch here where I've wiped this, and it is really nice and easy to use. It's light. This patch now has material which is bonding to that paintwork, as far as I know. Like, they could describe it as a nano sealant technology or something. Nano infused. Yeah, it's cationic, so it's leaving a film of protection behind on the car. This cloth's wet now, so it's you know, you'll get the dry cloth. But it's really easy to use. It's really light, so it's kind of cool. So I got it out of the box and did that video on it and thought, yeah, that's a great product. Because again, to mix up a bottle was about 26p for a 500 ml bottle. So like, it just makes so much sense. But now I'm at the stage where I've got two Rinseless washers and I don't really want to. They're slightly different. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this video. And then after that, you've got one that's almost like a bit in between these two, which is Bilt Hamber QD, which identifies more as a quick detailer, charged polymer, finished dressing. It's very, if you know, you use that at 1 to 9, it still feels a lot more rich, and you know, you'll notice the kind of film and you'll buff it out. It'll feel more like a detailer, even at 1 to 9, because that's 10% product and 90% water. That's, you know, 1/4% product to 99.9 and whatever. God, whatever. There's hardly any product there when you mix them down. So that feels a bit richer. And if you use that 1-to-1, it does gloss up a lot more and like darken off panels and stuff, as we've shown. So, but the disadvantage of the Bilt Hamber is really, I think its maximum dilution is 1-to-20 as like a drying aid rinseless wash thing, whereas these are 1-to-256. So both of these products, or it might be 1-to-200, but it doesn't matter. Both of these products actually outvalue Bilt Hamber QD, but they're more, they lean towards being more rinselesses. Yeah, Bilt Hamber does leave a little bit of hydrophobicity and something which can resist a couple of washes, but it's not a protective kind of product as you like. It's more traditional QD. So they're all versatile. They all save you lots of money. These save you even more money than this, and we don't often say that. But that still saves you a lot. You know, $16.95 for 500 ml, but I'll make 5 litres with that. So 500 ml would cost me, what, £1.65 for a bottle, as opposed to like, you know, £15 for a bottle of, you know, ceramic detail spray or something, you know, or even more, £18 with that FameLab one. So, yeah, I mean, we're at the point where I'm satisfied all of these give me value and I'm not too worried about the difference in pennies. But I can't really decide because I tend to only want one. I tend to only want one. And I think on paper, in my head, that if I only could have one of these, you know, then it would be this one, because with the Idrosave, you can't use it if you're prepping. You wouldn't use it as clay lube because you're going to be putting stuff down while you're trying to get the panel kind of free of contamination. You're going to be protecting at the same time. So you spray it, I've used it as a clay lube and sprayed it onto panels, you know, that haven't been clayed. It's going to be bonding and leaving that nano protection behind when you're trying to, the aim of the game is to scrub back to a clear panel and then polish and then put some protection on. So it's slightly flawed as an in that sense, but Jesus, yeah, I've put it on the shelf for the reasons I've said. So I think, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Just, I don't have the answer to this. And this is partly why I've done the video. I just think, you know, if you like all three, just have all three kicking around. Yeah, it's really difficult actually. But really on paper, you know, if I was whittling it down to two, then potentially that would be the one that would go because it would sit in the middle of both of these. Whereas, so that one for a drying aid, protection top up, wipe down, you know, use it every wash as a drying aid. And this one as a general purpose rinseless / QD or whatever, as we've explained. But yeah, don't know. All I know is that a lot of you are interested in kind of these chemicals like this. Professional detailers are interested in it because they plough through it. And these are tools, like I've said before. So if you're more interested in acquiring tools rather than the glamorous side of it, and what I mean by the glamorous side of it is you can get caught up in, you know, the glamour of seeing a new product and wanting to try it, and you go and buy it and it costs a lot of money. And there's very little difference really. It brings me back, I've got this Wax is Dead one on my shelf as well. I will use that up. That is a quick detailer that is, it's not as protective as this ceramic thing. We've done a video on this and why they chose this, because they've got a ceramic spray. So they wanted a spray that was, you know, not going to interfere with the baseline protection of their ceramic coatings, and just more a kind of slidey lube thing, although it does add a little bit of protection. But yeah, I was going to pull this out because this has made it to my shelf as well. And this is the opposite of everything I've just said. But I still like it. You know, the question is will I go and buy more of this? Because it's incredibly expensive. And it is almost like a spray sealant, to the point where if you're using the hybrid ceramic detailer, if you're using it like every wash, and you could do, your protection levels are going to be buzzing because it just builds up. You'd use it and it's a lot richer, and you see the film, and then you'll buff it out. But then as it sort of starts to dry off, it slickens up. And then when you put on another coat in a couple of weeks' time, you'll notice it goes on top of itself a lot more, and you build up that slickness. And then your panel, the protection is buzzing, and it's like beading, and it's like, it's just more powerful. Yeah, and that was part of one of the overwhelming themes of all of this study that we did on quick detailers in 2025, and we've been immersed in all these quick detailers, is that they've just all they've gone this way. And like a lot of people in the comments are saying, well, quick detailers shouldn't be like this, and they should just be like a little spray and shine thing. Yeah, there's no right or wrong, but you can see the way the industry is trying to give you stuff that you can notice. You know, it's trying to cap out the slickness. It's trying to give you protection. It's trying to give you all this performance you can see, so that when you buy this product, it's like, wow, this one is so much better. So say if you were new to detailing and you used the Koch Rinseless wash to kind of dry down your car as a quick detailer, you'd be fine with it, and you'd be happy your car was clean and shining and all that sort of stuff. But then when it rained or something like that, you wouldn't notice that that's done anything. Whereas when you use that one, or you rinse it later on, you see all the water buzzing off it and you feel the buff and slick. This one, you'll be like, oh, well, that's such a much better product, this is. It's so much better. So a simple layman's kind of explanation is these are turbocharged detailers that give you all the bling. But they cost you a lot of money. The bulk on this is 80 quid for 5 litres. You don't even need bulk on this because it's 1 litre is just going to last you forever. So there on that desk, we have the sort of like 4 cracking products that I just sort of, why my head is sort of saying you should just have one, John. You've got to get down to one. You've got to get down to one. The least chemicals, the better. But I think when you've got a range of options there like that, and you just have them and just use them. The most important thing is to just try and use these chemicals now. So I don't really want to be buying or trying any other quick detailers unless there's some sort of reason that something comes along that's meant to be really good and like is raising the bar even more for whatever reason. Then we have a look at it on the channel, and if it's really good, it might even like relegate this off the shelf. But yeah, this for me was a phenomenal product for all of the reasons I've just said, but you pay for it. Yeah. Now with some guys, they'll pay for that and it'll be 18 quid and they won't care that it's 18 quid, and that will last them a year, for example. For other guys, you know, that might, especially a professional detailer, that might last you a week. If you're doing like, well, you'd be hard pushed to get through that in a week. It could last you 2 weeks if you're using it on every single car and you're doing multiple maintenance washes a day and protecting and chopping them up with that. So you could be through that in 2 weeks' time, potentially, if you use it as a drying aid. And then suddenly that high chemical cost does become a factor. So the professionals tend to be really savvy in that sense, but they would appreciate that they're using a premium product, and their customers will get some of the benefit of the protective side of their car for the next like 3 months. But the savvy ones might say, well, they will know the difference as long as it looks good, because that will beat up the car for God knows how long. Yeah, so there's no right or wrong with any of this. It's been on my mind because we've been immersed in the subject of quick detailers, and yeah, what's on that desk over there is, you know, a kind of like I've said to you, that's the stuff that I've kept on my metal shelf because it's got to that point where they're really like top drawer for different reasons. Big intake of oxygen. So that's what I wanted to cover. So the question would be, and maybe you can answer this in the comments, if I had to have only one, what would it be? What would it be? What would it be? And I'm thinking it has to be the Koch, but then I lose all the bling. I lose all the bling. It's not good as a drying aid, or it's not as good because it doesn't repel that water, and it's not drawn to the panel. You know what I mean? It's not quite as good, but I'm sure in terms of lubrication, it's just as good, but not in terms of that. When it's got that fresh protection bonded to it, the water just wants to come away from the panel. You just like gently go over with the towel and it lifts all the water up. When you don't have protection on there, you gently go over it, but the water wants to stick to the panel and you've got that smeary kind of film. So drying aid needs to have, I think, that cationic component that bonds to the paintwork and wants to repel the water off of the car. So yeah, so maybe it's the Idrosave, who knows? Or maybe you're overthinking all this price thing and you should just go with the Lab, but then that's not a Rinseless, and I don't know, can't decide. Help. 4 crackers there though, guys. 4 crackers, very difficult, and yeah, all good brands as well, actually. All good kind of technical brands that are doing lots of things. I'm really glad actually that I found a Labo Cosmetica product that appeals to me, because we'd looked at, like years ago, we'd looked at Primus, I think it was called the pre-wash, the alkaline pre-wash, and it was just a bit pricey. It wasn't for me, but it wasn't bad. We looked at the Purifica and it was just too pricey, and I'm not sure, all this acidic shampoo, I'm sure there's some benefits, but for me, I'm not sure if I need any of that. Yeah, and it was very expensive. I think about £4 cost per wash if you used it in a bucket. We looked at the Kronos and a decarbonizer, and it works, it's good, but yeah, I find it melts off carbon, but you still need to get into that exhaust with like some sort of a bit more grunt. So it was almost like a good contactless chemical to kind of break down the carbon, but you still needed to get in there with a grunt. So you're almost like, to save time, you're just better off getting in there and grunting it all out with wire wool anyway. So yeah, I couldn't see myself like buying that. I haven't bought it since then. So like, I'm thinking, well, I've looked at this brand and there's nothing there for me. It's just not, they're not doing it. And then the SiO2 Perfector I thought was really good. It was the first one where I thought, yeah, this is good. And it got right the way to the kind of final, but just got pipped at the post, but very good. But the Idrosave for me is just a really good product because of that value proposition. And that's what I want brands to do. And Labo Cosmetica are an example of a brand that don't give you cheap products, I don't think. If you know, it's meant to be the up market kind of technical end of the Mafra kind of division, which are a bit like the Auto Glim of Italy. So this is their upmarket high-end stuff. But just because it's upmarket and high-end doesn't mean they can't give you products that are going to give you value. And that's what I like. So I found a Labo product that I really, really like. And I think, yeah, I do think they're a good brand. And Lab, a relatively new brand to me, but I've been impressed with what I've seen. I think their Rinseless wash stood out from the crowd in terms of it was a really strong cleaning kind of, almost like a surfactant. You know, it really felt surfactant rich and really cleaned and degreased well for a Rinseless. And it was different to all the other ones in the test, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. I'm looking for more like a lubey Rinseless than a sort of like cleany Rinseless. Sounds a bit weird, but then we looked at this hybrid ceramic detail. Again, it stood out from the crowd because of the chemical, I think, is really good. But so is the professionalism of what they're doing with all their kind of labelling. And I think it looks like a really desirable brand that are having a go at offering and competing in that kind of forecourt coating market. So they've got intentions to try and compete with that ferocious battleground of like using ceramic coatings, like now replacing traditional car protection products that are done on the forecourt as a more premium package. And I think that's where they're focused, but then they're perhaps realizing that the consumer market, the guys at home that are really into detailing and stuff, is also a market that is very good to get into, perhaps more so than that whole forecourt thing. Yeah, it's difficult because if you make your brand more sceney, more what we're all into, it can be good for short-term sales, and you can see like this impact. But keeping that going long-term is less lucrative, I think. And establishing a non-scene based set of sales will be good for your brand long-term. I say that because we've been doing this for 10 years and I've seen lots of brands come and go because they make the mistake of being scene brands, and they come out, and you guys are kind of like, your idea of brands is based on what you see on social media and what you might see us talking about, what you might see on forums, what you might see on Instagram now and TikTok. And you think that is a representation of what's massive sales and a big brand. It isn't. It's actually a lot smaller than you think. It's good for little short-term hits of sales. So to get that longevity, you need to have a brand which is also, I think, targeting the wider market outside of the scene that we know and love. And I think both these brands probably got a good chance of doing that, but that's a more tougher nut to crack, and it requires proper marketing budget to get a foothold in that door. Yeah, it's a harder nut to crack, but both these brands have the potential to do it, I think, and they're both pretty good. So there you go. Hopefully that was an interesting discussion for you. And I fired this video up because of a comment that someone was talking about it, and I said, yeah, it's good, I'll do a video on that. And the aim of this video is for me to try and decide which one, you know, I could just have, and try and really whittle my shelves right back down to everything I need, the minimum, the best. And I haven't been able to do that. So all of those products will be going back onto the steel shelves. Maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, if I've managed to get through all those products, it'll be the one that I've used the most, which is like, yeah, that's the one actually, that's all I need. But at the moment, I can't decide. Over and out.